Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey. We are here to talk about the Austin Grand Prix qualifying session because, oh my god, let me tell you something. I had no intention of recording right now. It is midnight in the UK. The qualifying session has literally just finished. I'm very tired. I was going to go to bed, get up early in the morning and just get the record and the edit and everything done tomorrow. But I have to talk about what has just happened because oh my god, what a session. So let's kick things right off with Q1, and out was Zhou Guanyu, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Franco Colapinto and Alex Albon. Now, before we get into those little bits, let's just talk about what happened in Q1. We had a little bit of a moment between Alonso and Lawson again. Now, in the sprint, there was a bit of a battle between the two drivers. Alonso and Lawson were then seen having a conversation after the sprint. Looked a little bit like heated. There was lots of hand movements and gestures. And Alonso said in a press conference that, you know, he's obviously fighting for his career. It's not the best way to maybe go about it, pulling moves like Lawson did during the sprint. And Alonso said, but hey, it's, you know, I've got a seat for next year. He doesn't, so maybe that's why he's doing these things. They were coming out of the pits and Alonso was behind Lawson and Alonso just shot up the inside towards turn one. And Lawson was told, you know, just ignore it, just let him do what he's got to do and just focus on the qualifying session, to which Lawson replied by going third fastest in Q1. Third fastest. He was the third fastest driver in an RB. In a V-carb. Like, what? What? A Lawson! Quite literally channeling his childhood hero of Lightning McQueen. I am speed. Third fastest in the V-Cup. Like, Lawson in an RB out-qualified. Let's look at the big name. Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Lando, Perez, Sainz, Gasly, Russell. Like, what? It was epic. Absolutely epic. And it happened at the same moment. Like, I kind of didn't really appreciate it until a wee bit after the session, because there was other bits that we will talk about in a minute. Was very worried for Charles Leclerc not making it out of Q1 because he was getting his lap times deleted. Thankfully, he was fine. Tsunoda had 2 lap times deleted. Gasly was P1 at one point, and I, like, after qualifying, are we sure Gasly's not actually in a McLaren? Like, are we genuinely sure? Like, I know Alpine was having a bit of a laugh with it, being like, well, you all laughed at us when we changed our livery, and look at what happens now. Are we sure it's not the McLaren, but with a BWT sticker on it? Just saying. But the big news was Hamilton out, P19. He actually went, I think he was 16th. I think he went 16th quickest, and I was like, oh my god, he's out P16. And then just like Magnussen, Hulkenberg, like all of these, Bottas just managed to go faster than him, and he just tumbled down to P19. Like, what is going on in the house of Mercedes that Hamilton is P19 for the race tomorrow? It's just insane. And like, I went into this session being like, do you know what? The Mercedes are actually looking quite fast. And Ted Kravitz did note that before the session had started, that, you know, the Red Bull didn't do much work at all. They pretty much were happy with the Red Bull. Give it a polish. It's good to go. The Ferraris, exact same. Little bit of work, nothing too much. They seemed pretty happy with the performance of the car. Russell's car, again, not much happened to it. They seemed pretty happy with Russell's car. Hamilton's apparently was like stripped apart. Like, they were just not happy. There was something going on the car that was degrading his tyres so much, which I think is obviously why we didn't see him really taking part in the fights during the sprint race. His tyre deg was so high that he couldn't really afford to. It was mostly just, what's the word I'm looking for, like damage limitation, just tyre management. Don't do anything that's going to drop you further down the grid. But insane that he's out. It's insane that he's out 19th. Crazy. And as I said, that just kind of eclipsed Lawson going third fastest. Like, I didn't even notice Lawson going third fastest, to be honest with you. I'm shocked by the whole thing. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. He will obviously start P18 because Lawson does have his grid penalty to serve, which means he's automatically starting at the back of the grid. But still, a P18 start for Hamilton is not a vibe. It's not a vibe. All right, and moving on to Q2, and out was Liam Lawson, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hülkenberg, and Yuki Tsunoda. At first, I thought Lawson wouldn't really go out. There seemed to be a little bit of a radio communication that he was like, you know, I'm happy, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go out and show what I can do in a qualifying, and then just like take it chill. It did come across that maybe that was like because he's got the grid penalty, he doesn't really need to go out again. And maybe his performance in Q1 was what is it F1 likes to call them right now? A statement. You know, whenever like a driver does something, it's like statement made. F1 keeps posting about. Maybe Liam Lawson's third fastest time in Q1 was a statement to Christian Horner that he should potentially be taking the Red Bull seat, because Perez is just nowhere near what they need him to be. And I'd actually say his performance this year is worse than last year. But we'll come on to Perez in a wee second. He was like, I did what I wanted to do. I'm happy, like, whatever. And then he did go out, and I was like, oh, Roger, okay. And he was not out for long, very quickly in the pits, didn't really set a time. I was like, oh, he's just out scrubbing a set of soft tyres. Not really sure why he'd be doing that, but okay, that's fine. And then it actually turned out that they had used him to give Yuki Tsunoda a bit of a slipstream. And I don't know why I hadn't thought of that before. But after the initial set of fast laps, there was a radio that was played from Yuki Tsunoda where he was saying, you know, the next time that Lawson is used to give me a slipstream, he needs to be here and move to this side of the track. Like, he needs to be in the middle of the track and then move to the left, because what he did was great, but then I got caught up in a load of dirty air. Like, he threw a load of dirt at me, and like, that's not helped me, because I've then come out of it with loads of dirt all over my car and my tyres. And I was like, oh, Roger, that makes perfect sense. However, the tow from Lawson just didn't help him at all, because he was out P11, just not fast enough, unfortunately, for Yuki Tsunoda. And then we had Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon. Not really surprised, to be honest. It's kind of business as usual for them to be out sort of there. Hülkenberg pipped by Magnussen. Who'd have thought that, eh? I always usually put Hülkenberg as the faster of the two drivers. However, he was out. He was out at turn 1. He had a messy start of the lap going into turn 1. I think he had a tiny little bit of a lockup. And then I believe he had another bit of a lockup and a messy turning around turn 12. Those sort of tight hairpin corners. So his lap was ruined at turn 1, and he was out of Q2 at turn 1, unfortunately. Moving on to Q3, and out in P10 was Sergio Perez, followed by Kevin Magnussen, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, George Russell, P5, Oscar Piastri, followed by Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, and Lando Norris, P1. Quite funny that Lando came out of the pits for his first fast lap, and was told by his engineer not like to trust the car, to not um, overdo it combined, and basically was told don't overdrive your car, trust the car, and when you're into the braking zones, don't brake and corner too much at the same time. He obviously went fastest. As I said, I'm not entirely sure that Gasly hasn't stolen McLaren, because he did finish 7th, so well done to him. However, the rest of the laps were kind of coming in, and then all of the drivers went out to get their final fast laps in. And I'm going to say it, had George Russell not crashed into the barriers, Max Verstappen would have been on pole. I'll come back to that in a second. But everything seemed to be going fairly normal, and then there was a yellow flag waved, and at turn... Oh, let me check my turns. Get exactly what one it was. Turn 19, the second last corner of the lap, he had a little bit of a snap of oversteer, and I think the rear of the car was maybe a little bit raised. He took a bit too much of the curb and just spun clean into the barriers. Didn't seem like too bad of a shunt. He kind of hit the barriers side on. So they believe the battery is fine and that the damage to the car won't be as bad. George was fine, thankfully. No crash, no shunt is ever good, and it is extremely dangerous, but could have been a lot worse. Thankfully, it wasn't that bad. And it caused double waved yellows, which ruined... It means that no driver gets a time set, and it ruined Max's chances of taking pole, which he would have easily done and snatched it away from Lando. His Sector 1 time was the quickest Sector 1 of that session, and I'm saying it right now, it looked like Max would easily have taken pole position away from Lando. So he has finished Q3 second, so he's lining up second for the Grand Prix tomorrow. And looking at the sprint, looking at the qualifying sessions, just kind of looking at the weekend in general, I am going to say Max actually has the preferred position. Yes, I know he started P1 in the sprint and just went on and won it, but I'd actually say P2, he's sitting in a pretty cushy spot. And I am going to say that by the end of lap 1, Max Verstappen is leading the USA Grand Prix. I don't think Lando is going to retain the lead through the whole lap. I think Max is the quicker car this weekend, which is wild to say because the McLaren is actually the faster car. What is going on this weekend? Like, it's like roles reversed again. And I think Max Verstappen is... I've finished the sprint roundup being like, Max is going to take pole, and he's sitting second. But look at the receipts. Max would have been on pole. I would put everything on. I would put it all on Red Bull that Max would have gotten pole position. And if you don't believe it, go and argue with somebody else, because I'm too tired. So yeah, that is the state of play after the qualifying session. Norris is P1. I don't think he will retain P1 by the end of the first lap. I think he will be sitting P2 or maybe lower, because Sainz was looking pretty fast. The Ferraris are looking fast, and I think that he will have a bit of a fight from those boys in red, to be honest with you. Interesting to see what Mercedes can do. Russell's obviously P7. Hamilton starting P18. Like, how far up the pack can he climb? I don't know. Can Perez get any better? Will he get any points at all? He could very easily slip. He's got Tsunoda right on the back of him, and Lawson looks like he could be a bit of a nuisance to those further up the grid. So it's very exciting. I think it's all to play for tomorrow. I am absolutely stoked. I love COTA. I knew I loved COTA for a reason, and this weekend is proving why I love the Circuit of the Americas. It's just a brilliant track. Absolutely brilliant. It's got everything. It's got absolutely everything. It's got high speed, it's got low speed. That last section is great for overtaking. Turn 1, turn 12, even that sort of turn 1 into turn 2 switcheroo and the turn 12 into 13 switcheroo is just brilliant to watch drivers navigate and get the overtakes done there. So I'm very excited for tomorrow. Cannot wait. We will be back after the race. Enjoy the Grand Prix. I think we're in for an absolute cracker. See you then. Love ya. Bye.